Hi guys, we're going to touch on a topical issue that's come back into social media and the spotlight over the last couple of days. I'm here with my colleague Wade Pretorius. Wadey, we've seen a lot being made of a report that popped up on BBC Sport. It's pretty much titled South Africa's Schoolboy rugby scene faces a widespread doping problem. Now, this is not really a new kind of subject or allegations that have not come up before. It is a prevalent talking point that's been tackled at various stages, but increasingly it does seem that SA Rugby is being targeted and seen as a place that has a doping problem, especially at schoolboy level. And I think we just can unpack this a little bit. What is your initial take on that report? I think initially you said they're coming after us, but when you look at it maybe a little bit more in depth, there's certainly some substance to it and some fabrication.
Yeah, I think I'm cynical of the report. As you say, there isn't much new information. I think it's a very emotive piece. The guy talks about, he wanted the youngster wanted to take up his bulk levels, and instead he turned into a steroid use. There's a culture, obviously, in schoolboy rugby because we wouldn't have the numbers that we do. But as you say, it's an issue that is being handled probably quite well, I would say. And so while it's easy to look at the numbers and say, look, SA Rugby really does need to go even further into its battle, I do still feel that maybe this is a cheap attempt. I don't know the writer, I haven't read much of his stuff, but a cheap attempt to diminish the SA Rugby brand, considering we are in one of the best phases with the Springboks being world champions, rugby championship holders, the Stormers and the Sharks, and our production line of talent around the world just continues to grow.
Yeah, I think make no mistake, there are definitely a couple of cheap shots in there, referencing Deanti, who was very much a once-off situation, or a relatively once-off situation, especially in the last couple of recent years, in terms of a Springbok high-profile player who was caught, referencing the photo of the box at the World Cup, where they all had their shirts off, as if that points to some kind of doping culture when these are professional players. Of course, they've got that conditioning, but there's no doubt to not be short-sighted and to look at the fact that there are undoubtedly schoolboy parents and certain schools, coaches and mentors that are complicit in definitely trying to ensure that certain schoolboys do take some elements or some substances to bulk up, to stand out in the pack. Obviously, we know in our South African rugby community, there are so many talented players, one's lining up after the other. It does become a point where you want to make an impression, you want to have a point of difference, something that makes you stand out, especially at youth weeks where being scouted and spotted is massively important. I don't think we can just make a blanket statement and go, that report's complete rubbish and there isn't a problem. There definitely is, and I've chatted to a former Springbok who says, despite some inaccuracies in the report or maybe some exaggerations, he thinks there are elements that are actually even more serious than what's been made out here.
Yeah, I think it's cause for concern. It's a report that needs to be digested, and the relevant people need to be engaged, because the one thing about that report, it doesn't go with apples and apples by comparison. There's no schoolboy testing the article in England, so our numbers are going to be way higher. If we had 20% more or 50% more drug cheats in schoolboy, then it's real alarm bells. But as you say, things need to happen. The culture of rugby is that in school, particularly the first team rugby players are the ones that the rest of the school looks up to. It's used as marketing tools. And so it makes a huge difference on how well your rugby team is performing. So the pressure to be the best, and in this case the biggest or the fastest, is massive. Yeah. It's definitely something that's probably too great for a large majority of 16, 17, 18-year-old boys to handle. And the problem, I feel, lays on those people, those mentors, those coaches that maybe offer these guys the other avenue, the darker avenue, if you will, of instead of just working with natural skill and talent to go artificial, and that's where the problem lies. And that's where we really need to make sure that rugby is being looked after. But again, there's probably a lot more digging you have to do before we can start working on clear-cut solutions to a growing problem.
Yeah, looking for solutions is probably the next video we can look at doing. But I know I think we both agree that probably a root cause of this is the over-professionalisation of schoolboy rugby, and it has become almost semi-professional in terms of the sort of coaching that's put into it.
Well, the coaching is professional.
And the coaches that are there, like you say, have worked sometimes at much higher levels with Super Rugby franchises even. It's become a proper professional sort of, at least semi-professional, bordering on professional. And certainly there's a lot of pressures being put on these schoolboys, and that's definitely where it comes in. And, Stefan de Blanche, former Bok, who wrote a column for us a few months ago, said, schoolboy rugby it's become too serious. From what he remembered when he played, the fun factor has been lost, and it's become just way too serious, way too professional, and it's undoubtedly one of the factors that are playing a role in some of the doping problems we're seeing.
Yeah, look, I mean, and at senior level we have had a few high-profile dopers, so I mean it is something that carries on, but I can't recall too many Super Rugby franchise players getting flagged for this kind of thing. So at least it's not a completely widespread problem that's infiltrated every level. We haven't had, apart from Apiwa Janti and Chili Boy Ralapela, we haven't had too many more players that have been flagged for this issue. So like you mentioned, that Springbok photo, I mean, show me a picture of a Kiwi side that's going to be the same thing. I remember back in the day, Andre Joubert, I mean, he was really well built for a fullback, and that no one's pointing to that era saying, look at the Springboks, they all are using artificial means. So yeah, a few cheap shots, a few unnecessary references. I know that he also mentioned Achille Snyman's name in the article, in terms of that was part of this young player who the story centers. He was part of that team. Maybe that's another. I mean, I feel like he's giving weight to his article by referencing a lot of probably we would say offsides mentions, things that maybe we wouldn't do. So it's an issue, and I'm really interested to dig deeper into this topic. And I know that our team is working hard with various coaches at schoolboy level to discuss this topic. SA Rugby have definitely come out, I would say, firing. Their target is to catch cheats, and I think that's a fantastic message that they send. I think the good side is we are testing rigorously, and people are getting caught, and that's going to be a deterrent. If your dream is to play for the Springboks, if your dream is to play provincially, and your buddy or your best friend, or even if you're in Standard 6 and the guy in Matric is getting caught, that's gonna hold you back a bit and maybe make you think twice about going down that route. Yeah,
I think definitely in that article there was almost an element of guilty by association with some of their references, but another article for the viewers to look out for is on SA Rugby Mag. We just approached SA Rugby, obviously the governing body, to see what they're doing and what their view is on the matter, and they've come back with quite an insightful statement, and obviously they've wanted to put some things clear from that article. They state here that they test more aggressively at schoolboy level than any other federation in the world. They say the only jurisdiction where they are allowed to test in conjunction with the South African Institute for Drug-Free Sport is at the Youth Week tournaments, and they even pay for additional testing over and above what SEDS would normally conduct. Of course, a bit of a problem perhaps where it comes in is they do not have jurisdiction at school level. So beyond really educating and imploring the schools and those principals to ensure that drug education is done and that culture is done away with. So I think no fingers can be pointed at SA Rugby as a governing body. Yeah. They seem to be doing all they possibly can. There's stringent testing at Super Rugby and professional Bok level. So the problem maybe lies at club and school level, and more needs to be done there. Maybe we unpack that in another video.
Looking forward to it.